And I think with our little secret, we're going to do really well with the House, right? Our little secret is having a big impact. He and I have a secret. We'll tell you what it is when the race is over.
Our little secret. We show it to you because with the political version of a freak off, it's easy to lose that little reveal, right? Donald Trump bragging to the crowd in front of a podium that he and his pal, Speaker Mike Johnson, have a secret, a plan for, quote, after the election. And given Mike Johnson and his Republican allies' track record, Liz Cheney calls him the architect of the legal plot behind the insurrection. When it comes to disrespecting the will of the American voters, it's raising alarm bells about the threat that may loom should Republicans in Congress hold any power come 2025. Mike Johnson might be the man to do all of Donald Trump's bidding this time to overturn a potential election defeat. And again, don't listen to us. Here's Liz Cheney.
I do not have faith that Mike Johnson will fulfill his constitutional obligations. And if you just look at what he did in 2020, he knew, and he knew with specificity, that the claims of fraud that Donald Trump was making and that he was repeating, he knew those to be false. We had very clear and specific conversations about that. He knew that courts had specifically found that those claims were false. He has a record repeatedly of doing things that he knows to be wrong, that he knows to be unconstitutional in order to placate Donald Trump. I think it's very important that that the Republicans not be in the majority in the House come January 2025.
Congressman, your thoughts about Liz Cheney's warning?
Well, I agree that the Republicans should not be in the majority in 2025, and I'm confident that we're going to take back the House. But, you know, January 6th was my third day on the job. Like, my colleagues and I saw firsthand the insurrection that Donald Trump inspired on January 6th. But what was even as troubling as the insurrection itself was the fact that half of the House Republican Conference voted to decertify the election, even after experiencing a violent assault on the U.S. Capitol. And that was mostly out of fear of Donald Trump. And that fear has only deepened. Donald Trump's grip on the psyche of the Republican Party has only tightened in the 4 years since January 6th. So I completely agree that the Republicans have no business governing what has been an ungovernable House under their leadership.
I know, like, my head knows that everything he's saying is true, but my gut's like, look at him. He slurs, he sways, he reveals the secret plot to steal the election from podiums, and they're all in.
It's especially when generally what you talk about on the presidential stump is your plans, like the audacity that people are like, well, Kamala Harris needs to tell me more about her plans. And it's like he's telling you that his plans, which he's supposed to sell to you so he has a popular mandate in order to enact them, is a secret with a guy who has an actually incredibly perilous place within his own caucus, who you are now promising is going to be there, which means you think you're winning the House. And on top of that, you think that he is going to continue to lead this caucus, even though at every turn they have tried to kick him out? It is not a secret. It's a threat. And we all hear and understand what it is that they're saying.
Tim.
Yeah. Well, just 1 second of levity.
Please.
The only good news.
God, please.
You know, I was just sitting there watching that, and I was like, you know, one thing we know for sure now. There's no aliens, and we went to the moon. You know, because if there are any big secrets that, like the government has, Donald Trump is not capable of keeping them, you know, so.
Which is actually terrifying, right?
That is terrifying.
I mean,
That's
the other
true.
big story in the news is that he's going to skip the background check process. So, I mean, at every level, like even the jokes about Donald Trump are scary.
Dang, you brought me back down. That's true. It is ominous. Look, I don't. Who the heck knows what secret he's talking about? The plan to send this thing to the House and have 26 House delegations install Donald Trump as president is not a secret. Right. So I don't know if that's what he's talking about or not. But if it is, we're all in on it. And so, you know, I think that there's the one piece of good news from the midterms is that the Republicans really failed at controlling a lot of these state legislatures and governorships. I mean, imagine if we were in a situation where Kerry Lake is the governor of Arizona and they had a MAGA speaker, right? So thank goodness that thanks to Roe and thanks to the Republicans putting up these lunatics in 2022, the Democrats
running good races.
The Democrats running good races. Like that threat, I think, is a little lower than it could have been.
Right.
But the plan, but that's still their that's still what they're going to try to do.
And the only way to defeat the plan is to, I mean, what I think is so amazing in all the conversations I have, like in my normal life on the weekends, is that none of this has happened yet. Election day is next Tuesday. And so if any of this sounds icky to you, vote. I want to